strength of the demon. This was
Hi,
not
welcome
what
back.
he had
Good
prepared
evening.
for,
I
as
think
all
I've come
roared in triumph.
come
More
on
demons poured from the earth,
to this
their eyes burning
video
with
now.
hatred. The Xeric fleet's drones were overwhelmed, falling one by one to the seemingly endless tide of infernal forces. Just as the battle seemed to turn in favor of Hell's minions, a voice echoed across the battlefield, dark and commanding. Enough. From the shifting landscape of flames and shadow, Lucifer himself emerged. His presence was an oppressive weight, an aura of cold power that stilled the battlefield. Felix, for the first time, felt a prickling sensation at the back of his neck, a feeling he had never experienced before.
Fear.
Lucifer was tall, his form towering over the demons that surrounded him. His face was both beautiful and terrifying, a perfect contradiction that defied understanding. He was the Prince of Hell, the first fallen, and his gaze locked onto Felix with an icy, unfathomable stare. You dare to invade my realm? Lucifer's voice was both a question and a statement, his tone dripping with disdain. You will learn quickly that Hell does not bow to conquerors. Felix stood firm, his voice steady, but with a hint of uncertainty. We will see about that. And so, the true battle for Hell began. Lucifer's voice rippled through the air like the sound of a distant thunderstorm, its resonance powerful enough to make the very earth beneath Felix tremble. The Xeric commander steadied himself, his pulse quickening with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. The battle had only just begun, and now they faced not only the mindless legions of Hell, but also its most formidable ruler. With a subtle motion, Lucifer extended his hand toward the battlefield, and in an instant, the temperature around them plummeted. A biting cold swept through the scorched landscape, quenching the ever-present fires of Hell. For the first time since landing, the Xeric felt vulnerable, the strange sensation of being unprepared gnawing at them. The air had shifted. This was no longer just another hostile world to conquer. Felix's mind raced. The Xeric were relentless conquerors, their technology superior to anything found in this twisted realm. But no amount of advanced weapons could counter the sheer power of a being like Lucifer. Engaged the Prime Directive, Felix barked, his voice cutting through the thickening tension. His soldiers had regrouped, forming a line, their weapons now locked onto Lucifer's silhouette. But the Xeric weren't accustomed to facing enemies like this, beings of pure, ancient power who defied all known laws of physics. The Xeric fleet unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, concentrated, precise, a deadly storm of firepower. Each beam screamed through the air toward Lucifer, but he simply stood unmoving. As the first blasted, the ground exploded in a cloud of molten debris. The Xeric waited, but when the dust cleared, Lucifer was unharmed, his figure barely distorted by the shockwave. The ground trembled again, and this time the tremors were different. They weren't caused by an explosion or by the force of some distant artillery strike. They were caused by something deeper, something far more sinister. The earth cracked open, and from it rose massive, twisted figures, the fallen. These were not the lesser demons that Felix had so easily eradicated, but ancient beings, the broken remnants of Hell's former rulers. Their bodies were massive and grotesque, clad in infernal armor that seemed to shimmer with an energy all its own. Eyes like pools of fire glared at the invaders, their very presence exuding a suffocating, palpable dread. Nothing survives in Hell, Lucifer intoned, his voice carrying a weight that felt like chains around the Xeric's very souls. Felix's eyes narrowed. These were no ordinary demons. These were the Warden Lords, beings who had once ruled vast territories in Hell before being overthrown by Lucifer in his ascension. The Xeric had always prided themselves on their military might, but these creatures exude a raw, primal energy that technology alone couldn't defeat. Rock, his second in command, had no time for second thoughts. We've underestimated them, Commander. These are no mere beasts. They are weapons of Hell itself. The Xeric adjusted their tactics, deploying heavier weaponry from the ships hovering above. Drones swarmed the battlefield, their advanced targeting systems locking on to the Warden Lords with precision. But the demons responded with terrifying swiftness. A Warden Lord leaped into the air, its massive form crashing down upon a group of drones with the force of a falling mountain. The drones were crushed instantly, their metal bodies twisted and torn apart by the demon's raw strength. The Xeric responded in kind, sending more firepower, more drones, more combat units. But the Warden Lords fought back like a natural force, unstoppable and relentless. With each blow, the Xeric ranks faltered, the battle lines shifting in favor of Hell's defenders. Even as they pressed forward, the sheer ferocity of their enemies gnawed away at their resolve. Feelings ground his teeth, his pulse quickening as the battle raged around him. Hell was not just a realm to conquer. It was a living, breathing entity, and the Xeric had awakened something far darker than they had anticipated. Amid the chaos, a figure emerged in the smoke and flames. Baal, the demon general. His fiery red scales glistened under the hellish sun, his claws digging into the ground as he slowly advanced toward Felix's position. The ground shook with each step, and the air grew thick with the stench of brimstone. The Xeric commander stared down the approaching demon, feeling the weight of the situation settle upon his shoulders. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had long dismissed as weakness, fear. The Xeric had never encountered such relentless determination, such overwhelming power. Baal spoke, his voice a guttural growl that rumbled in Felix's chest. You thought to invade Hell. Felix raised his hand, and a dozen soldiers leaped forward, opening fire. The energy blast struck Baal, but the demon barely flinched. He roared in defiance, a blast of hellfire erupting from his mouth, engulfing the Xeric soldiers in a wave of searing heat. With a single swipe of his massive claws, Baal cleaved through a line of Xeric warriors, his strength unmatched by any foe the Xeric had ever encountered. Felix's soldiers were being pushed back, their morale crumbling under the onslaught. Their weapons, once effective against lesser foes, now seemed laughable in the face of such primal fury. Enough! Felix shouted, his voice laced with growing desperation. He activated the Hyperstorm Cannon, the ultimate weapon on the flagship, an energy blast capable of leveling mountains. With it, they might stand a chance. He locked his sights onto Baal, raising the cannon to full power. The air around him crackled with energy as the cannon charged. Lucifer's voice, cold as ice, echoed once more. Your weapon is useless here. Before Felix could fire, the world around him shifted. The ground rumbled once more, but this time it was not an attack. It was an impending calamity. Lucifer raised a hand, and the sky itself split open. From the rift, a wave of darkness poured forth, a black tide that consumed everything in its path. The Xeric commanders watched in horror as the energy blast from the Hyperstorm Cannon was swallowed whole by the darkness, erased